Well, good afternoon.
Good
I'm Cal
afternoon.
Hackeman, as you know, the president of the Stretch Glass Society,
Mm-hmm.
and we're thrilled to have you here.
Oh,
I thought it would be interesting for stretch glass collectors to hear a little bit about how you got involved in collecting stretch glass. Maybe tell our readers a little bit, first of all, about who you are and how you got interested in collecting stretch, and then we'll kind of go from there. So, Kitty.
okay. Well, Russell was digging bottles and looking for gold coins up in Virginia City. And he didn't find any gold coins, so he found a lot of bottles. And some of the bottles had iridescence on them from the soil. And when we were going together, he brought me a Tabasco sauce bottle that was all iridescence. But there was some white stuff inside. So I cleaned the bottle, and the iridescence went down the drain.
Oh my goodness.
But I never told him. And he wasn't allowed, that was the dark ages. He wasn't allowed in our dorm room
Of course.
at all. So then we got married, and we went to the flea market, out to Alameda Flea Market all the time. And he was buying car parts. And I figured if he can buy an old, dirty, stinky car part, I could buy a pretty bowl. So I bought a plain rolled edge Fenton bowl in Celeste blue, and we had a green apple tree that had the prettiest apples, but they were full of worms, so you couldn't eat them. So I piled those in the blue apple bowl and put it on the dining room table. And as he bought car parts, I bought stretch glass
Wow.
on there, not knowing. And people says, "Oh, that's Tiffany glass," and all different kinds. Oh, Tiffany glass for $5. I gotta go back and let's buy more and more and more. And then I decided if I can buy all of this Tiffany glass for $5 a piece, there's something wrong.
So, and when did you get interested, Russell, in the glass side?
Well, the glass side, I've always been interested in glass, and I've worked with glass. I was a chemist in a chemist lab, and we have to sometimes make our own glass equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So I always worked with glass, and when I worked for Chevron, it was rather fascinating to go out to the glass shop, as we called it, and they made the scientific glass. And then when I got into school, like she said, I would go up to Virginia City to dig, and we got a lot of bottles. We didn't get gold coins. Got no coins. So we got a lot of bottles, and like she said, I gave her one. And after we got married, she said, well, my dad's got an old mine down here, and it's really old, and there's probably a lot of old bottles. So I'd go out with her dad, and we did. We found a lot of bottles. Sometimes we'd dig, and when you dig into some of these trash pits, better known as outhouses, the alkali soil that they were buried in will tend to etch the glass and give you this iridescent
Right.
surface.
Right.
And we'd go out on the dry lake beds too, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So after we moved to California, we got interested in more than just the bottles. Like she said, we'd see the glass, and I'd be looking for pretty glass for her. And about that time, we met people who collected Carnival glass. Didn't know anything about the stretch glass,
Okay.
and we had collected quite a lot of iridescent, pretty glass, and kind of sorted that out. And we really liked the stretch glass, so we had a lot of pieces. And one of our friends in our bottle club was also the author and producer of books, better known as Jim Beam Bottle Books.
Uh-huh.
And he said, gee, you got a lot of this stuff, let's do a book on it. So we did a book and came out with it in '72, and we looked for more and more glass. We met some rather interesting Carnival glass collectors. As it turns out, all the Carnival glass collectors we knew also had a lot of stretch glass in their collections. And
this was in the 1970s.
This was actually in the
Late
1960s, late 1960s.
60s, 70s.
So the book came out in '72. But all during that period of time, between '66, we were married in '65, But between 66 and 72, that's a 6-year period, we found a lot of unusual glass, met a lot of friends, and started going to antique shows. And we would run across unusual colors, unusual patterns. And probably the most interesting antique show we went to, we went in this one booth. It was one of these high-end antique shows where silver, china, fancy stuff. And he had a beautiful piece of stretch glass I wanted to go take a look at. Kitty walked in there with me, and the dealer says, young lady, please step out of the booth and go back and get your mother.
They don't do that to me anymore.
So,
And
Yeah.
so tell us, so what was it like looking for, buying stretch glass, what we now call stretch glass, in 1970,
It was fun.
1975?
it was fun.
Even in the 60s,
Even in the
we had
60s.
the Antique Trader, and it came every Thursday to the West Coast,
Mhm.
and the people on the East Coast usually got it on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yes, we did.
And
I was
you
on
would
the East
read
Coast.
that thing over word by word and call, and it was always gone, probably
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
But anyway, before, in 1966, David and Joyce Middleton went down to Southern California, and they had a big Carnival glass convention. I think it was the American convention.
Okay.
And they met all these Carnival glass people. And they said, wow, we got to start a Carnival glass club, because we saw David and Joyce, we saw Don Moore, and a number of other people out at the flea market every single week
Okay.
on there. And so they started this club, and we joined it, of course, at the second meeting. We missed the first meeting. And then every single month, Don Moore would usually have a get-together at his house. And when Hart Tongue brought a book out, or
Mhm.
Presnick had a book out, he would have us over, and he would show us what the pieces in the Carnival glass book were. And actually, they had quite a few pieces of stretch glass
Sure.
in her books. And we couldn't afford the Carnival glass, so we went into the stretch glass.
So
And-
what were some of those pieces? Do you remember what were some of the pieces that were featured early on, or that you were able to find that
Mainly,
are special today?
mainly bowls in a variety of colors.
Okay.
And the first
Mhm.
red piece we found, we didn't know if it was really red or not.
Uh-huh.
And one of the people that collected Carnival glass looked at it and said, yeah, it's red, okay. And we used to find a lot of dolphin-handled vases, candy jars, and the like at the flea market. You'd find just as many of those as you would a regular candlestick, a regular bowl, a regular
Mhm.
plate. There was no discrimination that this was better than that.
Let's go back to the red bowl, though.
Yeah.
None of us had seen any red bowls before, or
Okay.
red Carnival glass.
Right.
Even Don Moore didn't have any. So it happened to be a U.S. glass compote with the blue engraving around on it.
Oh, sure.
It's not red,
Yeah.
it's painted.
Right.
And finally, Don Moore went to a convention, and he brought back a piece of red Carnival glass, and we compared it. And Don says, let's look this thing over. And finally, somebody looked up the stem of the glass, and it was
It
clear.
was clear.
Yep. So that was our red piece.
Wow. Well, this is probably a good place for us to take a break, and we'll come back later and pick this story up. It's fascinating to hear about what it was like in the early days, and the next time we chat, we'll talk about what it's like maybe a little bit later on and how things have changed. So
And,
thank
Sounds
you so
good.
much.
and you've got
Thank
to
you.
realize that was in California,
Yes,
Yes.
yes, West Coast.
West
Mhm.
Coast.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Thank you.